those that operate under the radar aren't any less significant than the stars of the show. Think about Brooklyn, all the various good and not so good neighborhoods that Brooklyn, New York has to offer. Probably not thinking of Cobble Hill, the location of pivotal moments throughout the development of not only New York, but the United States. So originally when the Dutch inhabited the western, the roughly northwestern edge of Brooklyn, the highest hill, the highest, most steepest hill, they named Ponkiesburg. Because of this feature, about 100 years later, during the American Revolutionary War, George Washington and his men built a fort on top of this hill, the most aggressive hill overlooking, towering over the various fields and farms. They called it Cobble Hill Fort. A word has it that George Washington stood atop that very hill and looked down upon his men getting trounced upon by the British. And so he was able to retreat and direct his men into lower Manhattan, then up into Harlem, and off into New Jersey ultimately. Adjacent to this intimidating hill was the estate of Philip Livingston, who was a wealthy merchant during this period, and he fled with his family, and the British took over his residence and turned it into a hospital for British soldiers. And somehow they leveled Cobble's Hill Fort. Because remember, it was the steepest hill in the area, so they flattened it. They didn't want anyone to be able to look down on their headquarters, which was just north in neighboring Brooklyn Heights. Cobble Hill as a neighborhood pretty much began in the 1800s. People like Robert Patchen buying a farm along the East River. And this is who Patchen Street in Bed-Stuy was named after. And he had some property on Hicks Street and Division Street. And that basically spawned the neighborhood of Cobble Hill, and it gradually grew southward and eastward somewhat. Division Street later became Atlantic Avenue. Another thing that Cobble Hill is known for is being one of the first places in the United States to attempt public housing projects, except that it wasn't the government, because that's generally what it is government funded housing. There was a philanthropist who built these homes for the low-income workers in the vicinity. Ironically, about 100 years after that, when the government actually attempted to build housing projects in Cobble Hill, the residents got together and created the Cobble Hill Association, and they pushed back against it.